Right. All right. I think we're live, and I think I messed up the intro a little bit there too because I was stressed out. So I think I made us go live, where we're just sitting there like, and then I'm clicking the stuff. But anyways, not a big deal. Um,
Hopefully, we weren't picking our noses or something.
yeah. Hopefully not. But either way, sorry for the technical difficulties there. We had to create a new stream. Hopefully, people have found it and came across. I've no. I looked at Tassel's computer. We have no idea what was going on. We had to just restart it. It was playing the video somehow with no browsers open. So anyway, enough of that. What are we doing? What's going on?
Okay, so welcome to the Stream of Truth. I'm Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook,
And I'm Sean Kelly.
and today we have such a powerful topic. This is part 2 of our spiritual threesome series this week, and the topic is follow your guidance. So earlier this week, we did a live stream on, what was it on? I'm blanking.
You are enough.
You are enough. Yes, you are enough. Today is follow your guidance. And the next video we're going to do in this series is feel your feelings. So we talked about in the last video that from our own experience, from our work with our clients and our own guidance, that these 3 orientations are so powerful and really just skyrocket our personal development and our spiritual ascension. And I said earlier that if someone asked me, Dr. Tassel, what can I do to really move forward to transform my life? I would absolutely say, realize you are enough, follow your own guidance, and feel your feelings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. So where did we want to start with this? I think it can go. It's gonna probably go in all different branches, especially when I start hearing the whispers.
Yeah.
But
Once we're all tuned in.
so I'm sure it's going to go all over the place. But where do you think would be the best to
Okay,
start?
so I thought what we could do, if it's resonant with you and our wonderful viewers, first talk about practices, ways to really tune into our guidance. How
Okay.
can we really tune into our guidance? And then perhaps share some personal stories of what it was like for us when we were not tuned into our guidance, and what it's like for us now that we are tuned into our guidance.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
So do you want to start? What's your most effective or I guess your top way of connecting to your inner guidance? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm just curious. Um,
Yeah. So to me, it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. I just listen to the nudges that seem to come through. And for me, I don't know why I feel like my nudges start in my belly. Maybe from the lower chakras, I'm not sure. My nudges seem to start here, and then they kind of flow up a bit. And I'll just say that before I was a more awakened and more tuned in, I was always aware of these nudges, but I often didn't take them seriously, or I didn't really know where they were coming from. And I would let my rational mind really steer the ship. So for me now, I I'm so loyal to the nudges, these guidances, intuitions, nudges, yearnings that seem to come through. And I basically sort of try to turn off and on my thinking mind in a way. Like I like to use my thinking mind when I need to do something, thinking wise, if I'm writing something or calculating something. But I really more live, I like to call it my heart mind. I live in the heart mind, which is tuned into all the nudges.
yep. We've
And
also found neural networks in the heart.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I think we can consider it a mind,
Mhm.
a true mind.
Absolutely.
So for me to tune into my guidance, I live in my heart mind. I feel, listen to the nudges. I kind of tune out the thinking mind unless I need it to do something, because my thinking mind will come in with, oh, how are we going to do that? Or, oh, that's scary. Or I don't think that's possible. So I kind of just try to relax the thinking mind and only bring it in when I really need to, and live in the heart mind. And then in addition to tuning into these nudges, I also really feel my feelings around the nudges.
Yeah.
So I like to use the phrase screaming yes, like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. Feels really resonant. This is what I really want to do. I might be scared. I might not know how I can do it, but it really feels exciting and like the path. I really am resonating with it. So I
Awesome.
would say the nudges, my feelings, relaxing the thinking mind, living in the heart mind, and then taking inspired action. I'm not taking action from my thinking mind.
Right.
I'm not taking action of like, oh, this would be the practical thing to do. This is the right way to do it. This makes rational sense to do things. I'm not trafficking in that anymore. I'm taking inspired action from my heart mind. And then just the last, I'll just say a couple quick more points, is that what has really helped me develop the tuning in to the nudges and the feelings has been spending time alone. And just being with myself and just noticing what is going on internally and noticing the nudges and the feelings. And it's really just been a practice of coming back to myself and almost just tuning into how my being works, how this whole thing is working. The guidance and the feelings and the heart mind and the thinking mind, just really getting to know the whole system here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. How about you, sir?
So I guess mine shifted a bit over the span. So now I'm more or less at this stage. I seem to have a pretty constant direct link to Ka, and I can sort of hear or feel what they're commenting upon.
And can you explain what Ka is?
Ka is I'm unsure now, like some 6th or 7th density entity that seems to be connected with what are known as the guardians, or perhaps is a guardian, that are mentioned in the Law of One, and seems to be familiar with Ra and seems to act on behalf of or in coordination with the Confederation of Planets in service to the One Infinite Creator. So that it's still very mysterious to me precisely who Ka is or what exactly Ka is.
At times you have thought maybe Ka is your higher self?
Yeah, well, because the guidance feels very samey, almost as if when I started to form my relationship with Ka, what I was working with my higher self started to go away, and then it was just Ka. So it's almost like I just began to understand myself more. So perhaps I don't know, perhaps I'm connected to this entity in some way in time and space somewhere. I really don't know. Or I was calling for this particular type of information or aid and was and held the appropriate vibration to channel that, is the other way to perhaps look at this. It may have nothing to do with me as an entity as far as like my origins or anything. I just happen to resonate in a harmony with what they're wanting to send.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm. So, and I say I just happen to. I don't just happen to. I'm sure it was planned, but that's, I think, more or less what's going on. And at first, I would get like snippets of information and things like that, of guidance. Now, it gets for me, it got very messy, and so I had to, because I was getting, didn't realize this, but I had opened myself up to receiving messaging from it all over the place, and
Yeah.
so I was getting negative stuff, positive stuff, all types of things, and then attributing various meanings to them, and having a whole bunch of issues with that. So I had to purify all of that and discard a lot of these extraneous channels that I was using,
Yes.
to try to maintain a purity. And I think that's why I was calling in for this. And so now I have a sort of open channel at most times, as long as I'm balanced and present. If I'm upset, then I can't generally do it. Um, Luckily, I'm not generally upset, so it's pretty easy for me to even be in the supermarket or something and still be hearing various things or commentary upon things, is what almost how it feels. Um, and
So I'm curious, is Ka your soul guidance that you experience, or is Ka one of?
Ka has made it known that they are unique to themselves, but also a part of me.
Okay.
So I that means that it's an external, so it's both a non-local and local guidance, I would call it. So
Okay.
you have your local guidance, which is your higher self and your guides,
Yeah.
and then you have your non-local guidance, which is, it could be inner plane beings, it could be angelics, whatever it is, entities, other extraterrestrials, whatever it is. Those would be non-local, and somehow Ka is both of those simultaneously, and
Okay.
I don't fully grasp that, other than unity, right? So of course, but there's a different layer to it with Ka, where I have been a part of, or my soul is a part of that, or I really don't know. I really don't
This
know.
is so interesting. I haven't
uh,
ever heard the phrases local guidance versus non-local guidance. I'm just
oh,
processing this. So,
okay.
so for instance, most of what I just described seems it would go under the local guidance category, that these
Yeah,
nudges. Okay. And then say if I'm channeling Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Isis, that would
right.
be non-local guidance.
Yeah. Although,
Although
um,
they are part of me as well.
they are, right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the other thing, is that in unity, all of those distinctions and paradoxes resolve into one,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But prior to that, there is a differentiation between them, and also you could also consider that any beings from the inner planes, like Mary Magdalene, that there are angelics that remained in the inner planes of Earth to
Yes.
continue to guide.
Yeah.
That could almost be considered local guidance, because we're sublogoi of the Earth, and so
Okay.
essentially those beings are enacting Earth's plan for growth, and Earth's plan's also your plan. So that could be considered sort of local, but
Okay.
it's not local to the entity. That it would still be
Okay.
non-local in that way. Um,
So,
each
so I wonder if maybe we could delineate both of these paths of how to more nurture both one's local guidance
Yeah.
and non-local guidance.
So I think you said it best, and I didn't mean to start in the more advanced stuff. Or like the more advanced channeling. I
I
was
think it's awesome because we've presented two paths in a way that
yeah, yeah.
you can do both.
And both, like, you don't have, you, in order to go down the other path of channeling and like contact, like, it's a bunch of work, right? You don't have to go that far, and not everybody has any desire to do that. It may freak some
So
people out.
this is more advanced
It's more
guidance.
advanced, and it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to do that.
Right.
That's why I was going to basically say that, more or less, what I think is most important is starting to discern the differences between the inner knowings, the inner voices, and
Yes.
starting to discern the polarity of the transmission that you're getting. So once you understand the polarity of the transmission you're receiving, it doesn't matter the source. If it's loving and expanding, then it's something that's in harmony with you, and if it's constricting and fear based, then something in separation. So it really doesn't matter the source, and you can imagine that because all the source is creator.
Yes.
So all you really need to do is this a positive thing or is it a negative
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
and choose
Beautiful.
to listen or
And
not.
so yes. And that ties in with what I was saying about feeling your feelings around whatever energy is coming through you. And
Mhm.
I love how you stated it. If it's loving and expansive and it feels good, then this seems like pure guidance,
Yep.
higher consciousness guidance.
And
And
it
if
should
it's,
feel good without a reason as well, generally.
yes,
So like the ego will explain why something negative is good. And so
yes,
that's a different thing. It doesn't feel good. The ego is just going, yeah, this is good because X and Y and Z, and
the
rationalizing it.
rationalizing.
Yeah, so
Yes,
that's how you can tell
yeah,
when you're explaining to yourself why something's good, and you might even
yes,
be believing it a little bit.
yes.
And then you can realize that that's happening and go, oh, actually, okay, that's
I feel
probably
like
just rationalizing.
rationalizing is one of the most dangerous things to traffic in.
It
It's,
is, and it's also necessary in some respects for us to know when we should rationalize things or use the irrational mind, when we should just dip into the feelings. And that's large portion of what we're learning here as we awaken. Um,
yes.
is
And
because yeah, we got to learn how to follow our guidance. Like we're learning
yeah.
how to hear ourselves, right? Is
And
basically
to
going on.
me, some of the delineation is I want to use my rational mind to figure things out when I'm working or putting something together. But I don't want to necessarily use my rational mind when I'm making decisions about the path forward.
Right.
The path forward, I want to be in my heart mind, in my guidance. And I'm bringing along my rational mind, but I'm not letting the rational mind steer the ship.
Right. Right. Um, and so I wanted to say as well, just to touch a little bit back on what we were talking about in regards to guidance and local guidance. So
Yeah.
local guidance, you could imagine that you have a divine feminine, a divine masculine. I just reversed those by accident, but divine feminine, divine masculine, and then you have an androgynous melding or balanced energy as your third guide.
Mm-hmm.
So these guides will transition in and out various archetypical sort of templates of deities. So you can imagine that like many deities have different names, but they're actually the same entity, right?
Ah,
And
okay. Like, so can I just ask you, for instance, Lady Nada,
Mary Magdalene,
Isis, Mary Magdalene,
right?
even possibly Mother Mary seem all quite connected?
Right. So for
Okay.
right, so you can imagine that this could be multiple incarnative experiences of a particular entity, for
Yeah, of
example.
an oversoul.
And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that that's the case for them. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that
that's a possibility.
this is the type of thing that occurs. And so,
Yeah.
uh, based on the guidance that you need, that energy comes into the divine feminine and will offer the guidance. And then so it's switching. So you can. That's why some people will say that they have the same particular named entity all the time. That's the one that they've become used to and have probably built a particular relationship with and retain. But most people have them come in and zip out and do what, depending on where they're at in their life, what they're doing, where they need guidance.
Okay. Can I ask you about something?
Sure.
So, in my journey, especially once I awakened, there were periods when Archangel Michael came in.
Right.
And then there were periods when Mother Mary in particular came in. And
Yeah.
and they were like two real like foundational energies that were coming in.
Yep.
So that would line up with Archangel Michael was the divine masculine energy coming in, and
Yep.
Mother Mary, the divine feminine.
Usually usually Archangel Michael ends up, or that type of archetype ends up showing up when truth of self begins to be a big.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly when it showed up for me.
Right.
When
Exactly.
I really
Yeah.
needed to embody truth. Yep.
And that's pretty normal for as far as like, and then as that truth becomes more seen, that type of guidance may not be as needed, and so
Yes,
they step
I
back.
don't. He hasn't really come into me
They step in and
after
out.
that time period.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe I learned that lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really interesting. So I just want to back up to summarize. So we're first just talking about local guidance in terms of one's higher self and the guides.
Hmm.
And then this idea of non-local guidance, which is more like entities sort of outside of ourselves. But we're also saying that, say, Archangel Michael or Mother Mary, they could be in a way counted as either local or non-local, sort of just the way we conceptualize it.
Yeah, like they tend to step in and out.
Yeah.
And offer
Okay.
themselves when they're called upon and can be of
Okay.
service. So
Okay.
so they're local when they come in and are accepted as a guide. Like they come in, are accepted as a guide, that becomes local, more or less.
Okay.
They're also those ones tend to be primarily inner planes beings.
Okay.
And the extraterrestrials and some of the other higher density beings tend to be more androgynous, so they would represent more of the higher self.
Okay.
So they don't tend to have a gender polarity as much.
So just a question I'm wondering for myself, and maybe others might have the same question, is, okay, how do we nurture our local guidance?
Yeah.
As much as possible. And then if we're curious, how do we nurture receiving non-local guidance from other entities?
I think the way that you described is a really good way for anybody that's very like sensitive in the body, or sensitive to energy shifting in the body.
Yeah.
I'm not as sensitive to that, so I have troubles with I don't get these feelings in the body that most people get.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people get them, so it's very common. It's a very good way. That's the most important thing, I think, is to recognize first that everybody receives signaling in entirely different ways.
Yes.
The only real bodily sensation I get is pulsing in my head. It's like and sometimes you can see my temples expand when it happens.
Oh.
You can see like a pulsing. That happens on occasion for me, and that usually
Wait, can I ask you, do you get the nudges?
They don't feel physical though. No. There's nothing
Okay.
physical about them.
What?
I just become aware. I just become aware.
Oh, okay, like a cognitive awareness, kind of. It's not like in the body so much.
Yeah, not so much for me.
Oh,
and so
interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, there are practices people can do to strengthen that connection, right? That I just was fine with how I was, so I had no desire to go that route. But so if you do want to be more sensitive in the body, you can. There's practices for that. Maybe one day I'll end up doing that and share some. But for now, I'm good with how I am. But that's why I wanted to say, just however it comes in, isn't you want to try to just practice with that and really pay attention to it. And so
and I want to just offer that we can always ask for help, and we can say something like, show me the way, spirit. Right. Of course we are spirit, but spirit, please show me the way to, further maximize tuning into my own guidance. Please show me the way.
And another thing,
as you said, it may be very different for everybody.
Right. Yeah. And another thing, people get to this place of a little bit of confusion around what our guides are meant to do for us. They start to, and I fell into this as well for a time, where I thought that they had the answers of questions I had, like what should I do next, or they have the answers. And what I realized or came to understand, basically discussing with Ka, is that they don't have the answers, and even if they do have the answers, they are not there to give them to me. I'm there to find the answers myself. It would be doing me a disservice to disclose to
Yes.
me the answers I'm asking. And
Yeah.
so we can feel our mind will go, they're not listening. They're not giving me what I'm asking for, because you're
Yeah.
asking them to provide a service they know is a disservice. And for them to do that, they'd only be hurting you. And so they won't.
And
Unless they're negatively oriented, then they'll tell you whatever you want.
you said just a few minutes ago that part of what we're here to do in our incarnative body is to somewhat master this system that we're in, for us to be able to feel the guidance, for us to be able to feel
Yep.
our feelings around it. So, as you said, it would be a disservice to us if we just tried to connect with our guides and
Yeah.
had them tell us what to do. We're here to really figure the system out
It would
ourselves,
be a lot like it would be a lot like giving a lecture to a bunch of new mechanics and saying, "Here's the lecture. I'm going to tell you about fixing cars, and then
yeah, it's
send you out
not
to fix a bunch of
experiential.
cars." They don't know what
Yeah,
to do. They're
right.
going to
We
be
have to
lost.
experience it.
They have to be. They have to learn. They have to go through the steps of fixing the cars to learn it.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe what's also interesting is that I know for me, maybe you, maybe a lot of others, that I spent so much of my lifetime not understanding my system at all,
Right.
and
Yeah. We don't.
overriding my nudges, overriding my feelings, completely living in the thinking mind. And I wonder, obviously it's not a coincidence that was the path I was supposed to take. And what that taught me was how I didn't want to do things.
Right.
How I didn't want to live and make decisions from my thinking mind, because really I've said this before, I think on some of the live streams, I created a catastrophe of a life by following my thinking mind and continually overriding the nudges and the feelings.
I,
I,
I've
I made a complete mess of my life.
I've said before that the purpose of this entire place is just
Yeah.
for us to see what we are not. Um, that's
Yes.
We are not any of it, and we are infinite beings. We're none of this stricture that we apply to ourselves. And so
Yeah.
all of our experience is there for us to realize, oh, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. I'm all, and I'm eternal and infinite. And so that we step into that in stages, and we rationalize all these things, and it's very sort of beautiful how it unfolds. But
Yeah.
we're
And I think
constantly just looking at everything we are, and then realizing, oh, I'm not that. I'm not that
yeah.
either.
And I think it was
Very weird.
so helpful in many ways to live for so many years not tuned into my guidance, and to see the repercussions of that, how that was really not serving me at all. And so I'll say that I sometimes have fear around what my guidance seems to be directing me to do, because we've said this before, it feels like I get breadcrumbs. Like, okay, do this, then do this. But a lot of it is just living in faith that as I do one thing after another, it will all be okay. Whereas my thinking mind wants a plan. My thinking mind, I want to know what's happening a year from now and then
Yeah.
10 years from now. So this path of living from your guidance, it is very different
Yeah.
from living from your thinking mind. The thinking mind wants like security and long-term plans.
Yep.
And so I think part of what I learned from not following my guidance was things were not working out. So even though at times it can feel scary to be living more in faith in my guidance, I know it's worth it because the other path was not working at all.
Yeah. I think I think everyone will start to step away from their thinking mind so much.
Yes.
And they'll do that at various paces. Uh, as they let go of it, they'll realize the flow of everything is just so much more peaceful and easy
Yes.
than they thought it
Yes.
was, and they'll
Yes.
they'll laugh at themselves because they'll realize that it's always been that way, and they
Yes.
just couldn't see it. It was so in their face that they couldn't
Yes.
see it. And they'll likely have a giggle fit about it, and then they'll let go of a bunch of stuff, all the planning and all the stuff, that they realize doesn't doesn't really contribute anything. Just a bunch of assumptions and presumptions and guessing. Um,
Yeah. And so much of it is living in the present. And I get this word pivot, I think, from my guidance, like this ability to just pivot in whatever way our guidance is directing us,
yeah,
rather than having a thought out entire plan
yeah.
of what we're doing in our
And a
life.
lot of times
Yeah.
too, we'll set like we'll go, okay, I'm gonna do this project, right?
Yeah.
And I'll get midway through, and then I'll just hate it, but we'll still
Yes.
finish it because I said I was gonna do it, and now I'm gonna do
Because
it.
the thinking mind
Oh, it's
feels
gonna be
like,
embarrassing. People will see I failed, or I'll
yes,
feel like a failure,
yes.
whatever it is. And so then the thinking mind says, "Oh, you got to finish it because but you don't want to."
Because that's the program.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's tons of stuff like that where we
I have found it really interesting in our business together, you and me, the doctor and the wizard, that the guidance will seem to be like, okay, go do this thing. And you might not even finish it, but then go do this thing. And maybe that's not finished either. And then do this thing. And it's not really
yeah.
linear.
No,
It's
it's
not.
not. We're just putting little blocks in place.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and sometimes my thinking mind, like when we were doing the guided meditation album, we kind of did it in stops and starts. We did a little bit, and then we would work on something else and a little bit. And my thinking
We should
mind was
say
like,
that that's probably live by now, almost on Spotify, right? It's live on Spotify and iTunes. We should probably
yes,
say, yeah,
yes,
if you want to check that out.
we're not very businessy oriented when we talk
No,
about
no,
it.
we're not.
We
We
forget to
don't
talk
promote
about
anything or do anything.
our things.
That's okay.
Yes, we have an amazing guided meditation album out, and it's on Spotify and iTunes. It's gonna be on a lot of other platforms, and
Yeah,
it's
it'll be on
called,
Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and all that too.
yeah, it's gonna be everywhere. And maybe should we put a link in the description or something for
Sure,
it?
I could do that after. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
put the Spotify and iTunes link or whatever
But
link.
it's called Dream Come True, and it's 15 guided meditations to bring through your magical life.
Yep,
And it's really powerful.
It's free on Spotify and iTunes if you have those memberships.
Yes.
If not, you can buy it on iTunes. I think for like $9, $9 or $10.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Bandcamp too.
Yeah, we're gonna set it up on Bandcamp so you don't have to buy it from one of those places if you don't want to, and if you just want the files or whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
so we'll do that as well. Maybe today
So-
we'll finalize that.
So the guided meditation album was completely a guided divine project. And the way we did it,
I had to mention it to Tassel like I think 3 or 4 times. Oh, whoops! I just like picked my desk. Over the span of our knowing each other, like I think one of the first things I said to you after attending your a workshop you had done was I was like, your guided meditations are amazing. You should sell them, something like that.
Yeah,
I had to keep bringing it up.
Yeah. And so that's another part of guidance that we haven't
Yeah.
mentioned yet.
True, yeah.
Other people, the way I see it in a way is that spirit was talking to me through you. Like spirit was saying, Tassel, this is probably a good idea to make a guided meditation album through you.
Yeah, I think so.
And my thinking mind was resisting it. I didn't think, oh, maybe that's, I didn't consider myself someone who would do that. I had a very limiting belief about it.
Right.
So yeah, you, and it feels like maybe spirit through you guided me and you eventually to do this project. And then we would do it in like little bits and pieces. And my thinking mind would be like, let's just finish it. But it seemed like there were other pieces that Spirit was guiding us to put into place.
Part of it was likely about just setting up the right platform and like the right pieces, and then part of it was
Yeah.
also, I think, lessons for us
Yes.
intermixed in
Yeah.
there around, like, I think we
Yeah.
ended up getting COVID and stuff too.
Yeah. We had COVID.
Um, but
So,
yeah,
but
the
that,
whole thing was very guided, I'd say.
it felt very guided. And that's probably, I would say, one of my first projects that I've ever done that was sort of completely where I just followed the guidance completely.
Yeah.
And and I wasn't really thinking minding it at
And
all.
also, we weren't really thinking about money or anything like
No.
that. It was all just something that we thought would be good and thought we could put
Yeah.
it together fairly quickly. We did.
Yes. And it felt really exciting. I got a huge screaming yes eventually
Yeah.
when I stopped my thinking mind's thoughts about it. And and I think this is a tribute to what our world is like when we do projects like this, because now it's probably one of my favorite things I've ever done is this guided meditation album. And I've done tons of projects and written books and dissertations and so many different things, but I think those were more directed by my thinking mind, and this was really coming from my heart. And even another aspect of it is I spent a lot of time on the cover art
Oh
for
yeah,
the
yeah,
album.
yeah.
And that was really new to
It was
me.
really interesting
My
for me to watch and observe all that.
Yeah, like my thinking mind would normally have been like, oh, just, get something done and get the album out. Don't spend too much time on it. Be like rational and practical and just don't spend too much time on it. But my heart really, I think, wanted it to be something special and to take some time and creativity. And I ended up really designing it myself and working with some amazing artists to make it all happen. But I didn't rush it. And that's my old self, my thinking mind self would have rushed it and not really gone through a creative process with it.
Yeah, I would have basically picked the first thing we got, and I was almost like flabbergasted that you were still going, and then it turned out great. So no complaints.
Yes.
But I was
And
just,
like,
it was just interesting to me. Um,
yeah.
I
And now
wasn't
like
I wasn't trying to rush it or anything. I just,
yeah. Probably like knowing my personality in general, you might have thought I wouldn't have spent so much time on
yeah,
that.
I sort of expected you to go the other way, and
Yes.
just, yeah,
Yeah. And so this whole project was such an initiation for me into a really guided project, a really guided experience. And on the other end of it, I'm so happy with how it turned out. Probably more than anything I've ever done,
yeah, it's great.
because
It's
it,
great.
it did come from my heart.
And our first customer was my papa, my dad.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Stephen
think it was like
Kelly.
it just went out on iTunes, and I was just showing him,
Yeah,
and he
that
bought
was
it.
so awesome.
He
So
didn't have to buy it either because he has Spotify and stuff.
right,
He bought it
right.
just to support us, I guess. So it was very
Yeah.
nice of him. I appreciate it.
So I feel some of what we're saying is there are just so many treasures along this path of really living in your guidance.
Yeah,
Not to say it's not sometimes scary. It can feel scary. Um, but the rewards are just amazing because
yeah,
you're so aligned. You're in your guidance. You're
and
completely aligned.
a lot of the times the rewards aren't like things. They're not.
Yeah, they're not
They're
like,
almost like experiences or feelings.
oh, I love that. That's a really great distinction. Um, yeah, there may not be like immediate money,
Right.
which, is often the metric of how we maybe judge
There's
our
they tend to
projects
be
or
successful regardless of anything.
yes, like if this album,
If
if
people
no
don't
one
like it
ever
or
listens
don't,
to it
yeah.
or buys it, I'm okay
And
because it was so much fun to
I
do.
think we also know enough about it that people that like that type of thing will like it. I think
Yes.
most people.
And
So
I always get in from my guidance that when we are really embodying our guidance and our true self and our true passions, we are then creating something so beautifully unique that most likely would be quote unquote successful in a 3D way. And when I've done many projects in the past where maybe I wasn't 100% aligned, and the magic maybe wasn't quite there. Right? I feel like when you're really aligned in your guidance, you're bringing forth magic. It's because it's your unique, magnificent, true energy and true self that is unlike anyone else's.
Yep.
I always say, I love to say, you have no competitor when you are in your guidance and alignment. What you are bringing through is so unique.
It will likely feel so good and natural that you won't really even consider to do anything else, or even you may not even think too much about why you're doing it, or what your goal is with it.
And even
you're doing it to do it.
Even the live stream that we've been doing now, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 12 noon. I enjoy it so much. It feels so aligned, so resonant. It's the thinking mind maybe is like, what's going on? Is this like something to do? But I just love it. So I'm not even allowing my thinking mind to get in the way.
Yeah, I like it as an archive to just see where we've expanded from, like, because who I was and who we were years ago are different, right? So interesting to see that whole. That's why I don't delete the old videos of like video games and random stuff I did. It's nice to look back at those sometimes and just laugh at myself a little bit.
So it seems like for both of us, we're engaged pretty much solely in projects that are guided and that we really feel so much joy, bliss around.
But it can be hard to get to that place.
So what
you have to constantly self-correct a little bit for a while. I think, because
so as like maybe a summary, what could we offer as the top tips, strategies to do this?
I think my biggest strategy, like the most simple way that I can try to describe it, is if you're doing things because then you're rationalizing why you're doing it. So then the question just becomes, why am I rationalizing it? Like, am I rationalizing it to help my ego feel good about something that does feel good to do? So I'm just helping placate the ego a little bit by giving some rational explanation, which is great. That's usually fine. But the better way to do it is to look at all that and notice the discomfort the ego's having, because the ego's pointing out an old wound. So you can look at all that. But if you just want to do it because you want to, that's basically, that means, okay, go do it.
I love it. I love the phrase you offered. If you are doing things because, then you're basically rationalizing. Like, okay, I'm doing this because I want to make money.
There's helpful, like, aligned rationalization, and then there's negative or unaligned rationalization. Both rationalizations are curtaining the shadow. So if you can dive into why you're rationalizing, you'll see your shadow. So it's an opportunity to do that as well, a little bit of shadow work while you're in there.
Okay.
While you're in there tidying up.
So can I just give an example? Partly for my own understanding. So for instance, I've just started making videos on my own and uploading them to our channel. And I think it's easier for me now, but especially in the beginning, I had a lot of resistance to it about like the technical aspect and how I'd come across, would I be articulate, how I looked, all of it. It was lots of resistance. And so I think what you're saying is I had some aligned rationalizing, which was basically like, Tassel, you can do this. You can get over this. I know you're scared, but you can do it. We do want to do this. Um, versus like unaligned rationalizing would be very different. Is that the
Yeah.
distinction?
Yeah. So like an aligned rationalization is something that is um, explaining the positive outcomes of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so so it's sort of like what you were saying. That's more like your own confidence coming in, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily explaining. So
Mm-hmm.
rationalize the when I meant rationalization, I'm talking about it explaining why you're doing the thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so if it's a
Mm-hmm.
positive or aligned rationalization, you'll say, well, I'm doing this because it's a step forward in my business. It's a step, it's
Yes.
these various
Right.
things. Because it is those
Okay.
things. It is those things.
Yes. Okay.
Um,
Right. Right.
but the other way that the mind might look at it is I should or should not do this because it will hurt my business because I'll look stupid. It will,
Yes.
everyone will think I'm dumb and they won't listen to what I'm saying or those types of other rationalizations why not to do it.
Yes. Yes.
So it can go different ways. If it's a heart pulled thing you want to do and the ego's helping you along with it by
Yes.
rationalizing, then that's just aligned egoic work. But the ego, the only reason the ego is even piping in at all is because there's shadow there. So I'm sort of saying is whenever we're doing anything because it's really good to examine the because and just try to understand where that's coming from because there's a lot of indicators there that lead us back to woundings that we can clear up and then there won't be a because we're doing it because we feel like it and that's it and that's good enough for us because there's no wound,
Yes.
there's no reason.
Yeah.
And then we become more of the doer or more of the observer than the doer and it's very peaceful that way.
Yeah. So if we're saying I'm doing this because of something positive, something that feels good, that's an aligned rationalization. And if we're saying I'm doing this because I need to
Yeah,
make a certain amount of money and it doesn't feel good,
right.
then that's more of an unaligned
And any
rationalization.
rationalization is a function of egoic identification,
Yeah.
and removing that will bring you into peace. It'll bring you into non-doership and
Mm-hmm.
being this what I call the sacred observer. I don't know if other people call it that. The sacred
Mm-hmm.
observer doesn't do
Yeah.
anything; it just watches life unfold. And
Yeah.
so when you're in that state, there's
There is
nothing
no
to
doer.
there's nothing to worry about. There's no issue. So
Yeah.
getting into that state, and you could dip in and out, and it depends on
Yeah.
categories of what's going on. Some things
Yes.
trigger you differently than other things. So
Yeah.
it's but so I'm saying that rationalization in and of itself has like sort of a negative or positive side to it.
Yes.
But then the
Yes.
whole concept of rationalization is also something that can be looked at and dismantled and just
Yes.
left behind. You feel like we need it because how could I possibly function if I don't plan and you'd be so surprised. It's pretty easy. Pretty simple to do it actually. It's like we trick ourselves into thinking if we write down the plan, then
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes sure the plan happens and
Mm-hmm.
no,
Mm-hmm.
it's we just do as we do and the plan we write down just makes the mind go, "Okay. Okay, we got the plan." But it doesn't,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, so it's very peaceful to get to that place. So that's why
So
I try to specify rationalization. What's how like an aligned rationalization is still to me something to be looked at.
yeah. So maybe I'll just summarize what you're saying. I feel what you're saying is there's one way to sort of inhabit our being, which is
That's
we're
probably loud.
rationalizing, we're making plans, we're doers. And then there's another way to inhabit our being, which is I'm the observer and I'm observing life, spirit just work through me or live through me. And I
I'm
don't I
yeah.
don't really need to do anything.
It's more like I'm observing a nameless piece of myself do
Yeah.
stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
observing it do things, and then I'm
Yeah.
going, "Whoa, interesting. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful." Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's like. Um,
Yes.
and it's always been that way. That's the weird thing. That's
Yeah.
that's the weird thing about it. Um,
Yeah.
but it is also not for everybody to get to that, and to it's work. You do have to look at your shadow. Like there are some people that in just vast moments of pain and suffering awaken and just somehow let go of all of it and seem
Hmm.
to have just wandered into the light. I don't know how that happens. I thought I went through that experience and I didn't. So it's a progress,
Hmm.
it's a thing, and you'll either be called to like go down into those weeds or not.
Yeah.
Um, it all depends the state you want to strive to embody here in incarnation.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and either every way is perfect, and
Yeah.
some people it doesn't really resonate with that. Maybe not aren't really ready to let go of the identity a bit, or
Hmm.
pretty much all
Hmm.
identity.
Hmm.
Because if they let go
And
of the
then
identity,
if
where
we
are they?
do let go of the identity and pretty much live in the sacred observer role, then where does the guidance fit in? Like we can kind of let go of that in a way too, because we're just allowing life to flow through us.
Right. The guidance becomes just a part of the experience.
Like you are embodying the guidance like 100%, basically.
You have essentially
You
ascended the
yeah,
matrix, right?
right.
And so
Right.
you would be enlightened, and so
Yeah.
your guidance and what is willed by you, what you do
There's
is
no separation. It's
there's no separation there.
yeah.
So you're not yeah, you're just you don't have any question about any of that at that point.
Yeah. So maybe this is like the most advanced form of being in your guidance is
Yeah.
I'm just observing life flow through me.
I think so. And I think when people like Bashar and them channel, that's
Yeah.
likely the state they're in.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
to they have to entirely let go of identity to allow that being to come through.
Yes.
Which I've been
Yes.
experimenting with Ka a little bit.
Yeah.
So I might start
Yeah.
doing that type of thing
Yeah.
when I feel ready. I don't know. He keeps coming out in like a weird accent.
Oh, what
And it
kind of accent is it?
sounds almost like Indian something. Yeah.
That's great.
I
Oh,
like an Indian English or
like a
something.
British, like an
British Indian, yeah.
Indian person in the
Right.
UK or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
I don't understand it. So that's weirded me out a bit with it. Um, that's what naturally comes out, and I start to try to shift the words to sound more like me.
Okay.
I think naturally or something. I'm like, whoa, I'm too. I don't know. Maybe I need to step back more. I don't know. Anyway, I'm working on that. But when I
Very
start to talk like that,
interesting.
I'm like, this seems almost racist.
Yeah.
Like it
It's
just
not very PC.
it doesn't no, and I maybe that's part of it is that I'm supposed to be the
Maybe
racist
that's
channeler.
an expansion
Yeah,
for
I'll be.
you.
Look at this racist white man claiming he's an Indian. I don't know, and I don't know if it's Indian. I don't even
Invading.
know. It's just seems
Right.
to be like a Middle Eastern English mix.
Yeah. I'd like to hear it
Maybe one day.
when you're ready to share with
Yeah,
me.
maybe one day. No, I'm sure you'll hear it one day. I'm not. I've only just little bit experimented with it. I barely heard it myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens
Does
with
he
it.
seem to want you to eat like curry and naan when you're
Yeah.
in
He's
the
like, I really liked that garlic naan you had. No, no.
give me some chapati.
I basically got only like half a sentence out, and I was like, whoa.
Butter chicken, please.
Yeah. I
Um,
love butter chicken, but
yeah, we've made butter chicken together. I made butter tofu, but
so yeah,
yeah.
so
Final thoughts, final anythings on this topic?
praise his name.
Follow your guidance.
That's it.
I I'll just the last thing I'll say is I am so grateful to be following my guidance. I feel so much happier, so
Oh,
much
it's so
more
much easier.
fulfilled. Yeah, and
It's
it's also like I don't have to be in charge.
yeah, you can
I
just let
just
go of it all and
I
just
wait for the
yeah.
guidance and I just wait for things to come in and I'm not controlling everything anymore. I'm not forcing, controlling. It's so much less work.
And it's sad because like people that you try to that are really really deep in the control, when you try to explain it to
Yes.
them, they just basically are like, so basically you're like a hippie weirdo, and
Yeah.
they can't even, they just
And
think
you can see that
you're
they're
insane.
stressed
Yeah, they're
and
stressed, they're suffering, and
like
it's sad.
forcing and always coming up against blocks, and it's not
Yeah,
flowy.
and it's their own
Yeah.
blocks. You could like
Yeah.
watch them run into their own walls, and
Yeah. And I lived
yeah,
like
it's
that
sad.
for
It's hard.
the
I did
majority
too.
of my
Yeah,
life.
a lot
So
of a lot of us did.
I did. And I'll just say on this side of it, sometimes it is a little scary.
Oh,
But
totally. Yeah.
this is the thing. I'd rather be scared and excited
Yes.
than like maybe more secure in a
It
way,
has
but
a certain type of exhilaration to it,
yeah, it's an
uh,
illusionary
and
security.
mystery.
Yeah, like if I was just living in my thinking mind, I would think it's more secure
Right.
if it's really not, and it's really boring and deadened.
Yeah.
So this way, yes, I like to use the word it's an adventure.
And that's why in this density, most of our experiences of God or the Creator or our guides or the spiritual worlds, um, they, unless we're meant to be a type of mystic, we tend to not see it like as much as we would like to. So like it's very mysterious. So we're not generally meant to have a purity of faith in this place. We're meant to question a little.
Okay, so like, okay, that's actually
Otherwise we
really,
stop seeking Creator. Once we've found Creator, we stop.
yeah,
So
we're like, I'm good. I
so
feel
they're always
totally
he's always pulling us
secure.
along a bit
Yeah, with
until
some unknowns.
right with
Some,
mystery
yeah,
and like, yeah, you think you know me now, but now this, and then you're like, whoa. But that's basically the ongoing thing to keep the soul or entity interested in
an
seeking
expansion. Yeah,
and going home.
right,
Otherwise they won't go home. And
right.
how do you make a free will being come to you? You offer it little treats.
Yeah,
Here's a treat. Come on, come on.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
basically
So
what the Creator's doing with us. So
yeah, so
we're
the
yeah.
mystery is part of the plan.
Embrace the mystery because it's
We're
never
not
gonna go away.
supposed to know everything.
It's always a part of it. Always.
Yeah.
Even as we ascend and then merge in with Creator, it's still a mystery in
I
various
think
respects.
you shared the quote from Ra, the universe begins and ends in mystery.
Yeah, and Kaz also said that as well.
Okay. I love that. It gives me chills. It's very exciting.
Yeah,
I
no,
like living in a mysterious universe. I feel like
yeah.
we're like on a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah, it is like that. That's how I like to look at it. And I
I like to look at it too.
I actually think of it, I like to look at it more like a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think of that's why I was so obsessed with video games when I was younger.
Yeah.
Is because I was learning about games, and I knew I was in a video game, so I think that's why I was doing that.
Yes.
And so now that's sort of how I see this place, the video game. Yeah.
Yeah. I do too. I do too.
So I can like sort of direct the character a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately the levels and all the design is not up to me. I'm just playing through the levels.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Should we end there?
I think so. Yeah. There's a bunch more to say on this topic. So, but I guess let's end there and just see if we get any questions. If anybody has any questions about anything, we talked a lot about more advanced topics or advanced orientations on it. So it might be good for us to do a shorter one where we just do some step-by-step things, or maybe we'll do one. I don't know if we've released one yet, but we're talking about doing the Stream of Truth shorts, where we're just doing stuff with Dr. Tassel and I that's short and like to the point, succinct, not a live show, but
Distilled.
pre-recorded, but still in the Stream of Truth vein of what we're doing.
Yes. Like 20-minute
something, yeah,
short,
15 to 20 minutes. Yeah,
like from the ideas we've talked about here, we just lay it out
distill them
directly,
more succinctly.
Yeah.
I think some people will enjoy that, and then there's a lot of people that don't want to show up to a live stream that's over, so we're hoping to try to do that for them as well.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you
Apologies
so
again for
much.
the technical difficulties at the beginning. We can go ahead and blame Tassel. Of course, all her fault. Just joking. Um, no blame, but it's what's gonna happen sometimes when we're doing these live things. And
It was a good catalyst
yeah,
for
I still,
me.
it's weird. It's so weird. I'm pretty technical, and I cannot understand at all what happened. Um,
Yeah. And we were saying that sometimes things seem to happen that have no rational explanation. It
that's a
seems
good
like a
example.
magical orchestration for us to experience
And
something.
I think that later today or tomorrow, one of us will go, "Oh, this is why,"
That's what
and
happened.
it's
Yeah.
we're gonna understand it. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. And if that happens, well, I'm sure we can share with you.
Yes.
But I'm sure because there was no browser open at all. So
Yeah.
anyway,
All
anyway,
righty. And we'll be back in 2 days at noon Eastern with the third part of our series, which is Feel Your Feelings, which has absolutely transformed my life, is feeling my feelings. I cannot say enough about feeling your feelings. You know that I say it all the time. So we'll do that next. All
awesome.
right. So much love to everybody. Thanks for tuning in.